everyone, my name is Tiffany. I'm from Beijing, China. I go to a private university.
Hello everyone, this is Akshay. I'm from Mumbai, India. I go to a public university.
My name is Fatima, originally from Nigeria. I go to an HBCU, meaning historically black colleges.
My name is Tingwen, and I'm from Vietnam. I go to a community college.
I want to be able to influence the world, and United States stands out as a pace setter in research. I'm so excited about being here.
In my opinion, US degree is extremely impressive, and that makes studying abroad in the US an excellent choice.
There are many types of institutions in the United States.
I think it's just so unique that there's so many to choose from.
I had to make a major choice between the type of university that I was supposed to attend. The major factor that I considered was the scholarship opportunities that were available and the alumni network.
I've heard so much about the HBCUs as historically black colleges. I chose those because I wanted a school that really represents me.
As a humanities student, I prefer seminars instead of lectures because I find myself better understand the material if we get to discuss it in class. That led into my decision of going to a private university.
I chose a community college to study because most of the community college offer affordable costs, and they often offer a lot of majors you can choose from.
Some of the things I find that are in common between different types of institutions in the US is that the curriculum are more comprehensive.
It is more practical oriented that really helps you get hands-on experience about what you're learning.
Students can benefit from forward-thinking technology and modern facilities.
And I love the diversity, the fact that it's a melting pot for everywhere in the world. And so it's an awesome experience for me.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our today's session. Thank you so much for waiting for us. We've had a small technical issue, but thank you for still waiting for us here today. So we are very excited to welcome you at the second webinar we have planned for November. And today we dedicated our session to navigating the job market, the post-graduation process. So today we have an invitee from Embry-Riddle Institute. We have here Hannaliisa, and we would like to talk and we would like to offer you a detailed presentation. Actually, Hannaliisa will do that definitely, about some tips and some interesting things that you should consider when you are getting the postgraduate degree. But first of all, I would just like to specify that Education USA Virtual is here with you, assisting with a lot of interesting and useful information that you might need to know in the research process for your bachelor degree or for your master degree or PhD. And on our website, you can find a lot of useful information and a lot of courses that might help you to research that. So we offer not only interactive webinars, but also useful resources and materials, informational courses. And we are here a community of like-minded individuals that can help you with your application process. Also on our website, you can look, depending on the region where you are, for the closest Education USA Center. So as we approach the International Education Week next week, you can look on the region and you can find your advisor, which will assist you with your application. So now I'll give the floor to Hannaliisa. Thank you so much, Hannaliisa, for being with us today and for presenting this interesting topic. I'm more than sure it will be very useful to our students.
Thank you, Alina. I am very excited to be here. I am going to, you can see the agenda, talk about choosing a school, but not in the traditional sense. So I'm not going to talk about rankings and majors and so on, but from the life perspective, so to speak. I'm going to talk about graduate student life a little bit and employment opportunities specifically after graduation, but how to prepare for all of that. And then, of course, we have time for Q&A at the end. Next. So when we are going to choose a school, that's a stressful experience. We have all these questions that go around in our minds about immigration, degree requirements, admission process, cost of living, funding. Our minds get very busy. So it's very important to take a systematic approach and to deciding where am I going to go, and look at our lives not just on the school side, what degree do I want, but also the personal side, what is life like for me? And before we get into the nitty-gritty, I'm going to use myself as an example. Next. So here's a slide about me. So like everyone, I have a professional side and a personal side. So on the professional side, I am an international educator with over 20 years of experience. I have institutional experience from multiple universities and multiple states. So I've been in Illinois, California, Arizona, Florida. United States is a very large country. I've been in large public, small private, community colleges, and all of these places have provided me with institutional knowledge on and how my field of study works here. I actively participate in professional organizations. CEA is about accreditation. Accreditation is, of course, the Department of Education approval stamp that the institution we attend is worthy and doing what they say they are doing. And then TESOL and NAFSA are institutions or organizations for international education. So my professional interests are very clear. And finally, I am a student advocate. I speak for international students, and I want international student voices to be heard in the institutions I work in. Now, I am at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Florida, and there are multiple reasons for that. Not just professional, but also personal. And you can see there my family. I am also a speaker of another language. I am actually from Finland originally, and after being in the United States for 30 years, my Finnish roots are still very important to me. As a student, I earned an associate's degree in the United States. I have earned a bachelor's degree from a small private university, and then my master's degree from a large private university, public university. So again, I have institutional experience, not just working in these institutions, but as a student. And that affects my worldview and my choices for life as well. I'm an active person who enjoys the outdoors, international travel. That's very important to me, not just to visit countries, but also to visit my family. And then finally, I have a family. Now, there it is. My presentation is back. Let's skip to the next slide, please. So our lifestyle needs should be considered when you're choosing a school. So once you have decided that this is the major I want, and this is the my degree, it's important to take a look at the lifestyle. And lifestyle is, of course, the way we choose to live. Now, Alina, I'm not sure. I can't see the presentation anymore. So the slide has disappeared. There it is. Thank you. So one of the things, of course, to consider is family and home. There are many reports where you can look at school ratings, cost of living, best places to live for family. So it's important to look at that. Culture. Are you a person who enjoys going to the ballet, or do you enjoy the local activities, which might be sometimes opposite of ballet, like rodeo, for example? How important is following your personal culture? So then you may want to look at an area where there are more opportunities to connect with people from your region, your language, your food as well. Community and social life. So what kind of things do you enjoy? Do you, and the same with leisure and recreation. Are you an indoor person, outdoor person? I mentioned before that I have been in many places. When I lived in California, I lived in Los Angeles. that was not a place for me, but I didn't know it at the time. I do not enjoy urban living. I need to be somewhere where I can go hiking and kayaking and enjoy the nature. This may seem like a small thing, all of these lifestyle choices and choosing a school. It is not, because graduate school, after all, takes a little bit of time to get through. So personal preferences. United States is a large country. Living in a different climate definitely affects how your life is going to be. I lived in Flagstaff, Arizona, for example, and I wrote here altitude just so that I wouldn't forget, because again, not something you think about. Flagstaff is at 7,000 feet, which is over 2 kilometers in altitude. So sometimes students would come to Flagstaff and they discovered that the altitude is not good for their health. So sleep apnea, or we had a student, unfortunately, discovered that she had tumors in her lungs. She had lived in a sea level all her life and wasn't an issue. And then she came to the altitude and discovered that she had this illness. Urban, suburban, rural. Urban is, of course, the city landscape. Transportation is easy. You hop on a train or a bus and off you go. Suburban, you probably need a car. Rural, you definitely will need a car. To balance that, pollution. If you are in a rural environment where there is the campus and not much else, there is no pollution probably. Large cities, unfortunately, tend to be more polluted, which then again can affect our health. Finances. There are lots of cost of living calculators. Cost of living refers to housing, food, utilities, which are, of course, electricity, gas, water, and insurance is part of cost of living, healthcare. These can vary greatly from depending where you live in the United States. And sometimes the assistantships schools provide, of course, count for that. If students are sponsored by an outside entity, the sponsorship might be the same no matter where you live. So there are certainly places where the money will go further than in other places. And then, of course, travel. So, for example, I lived in Flagstaff before, as I've now mentioned a few times, and it was fabulous. I loved it. But my family is across the Atlantic in Finland, and international travel was very expensive and very lengthy, as was traveling to any conferences. I made a conscious choice deciding, I need to be on an east coast of the United States to manage this side of my life better. And now I am in Florida. Next. So once you have decided on a school, you have landed in a place, you are a graduate student. And here are some things that what to expect as a graduate student. The workload will be heavy. In a typical school, typically the course load is 3 graduate courses. It does vary though, like for example, here at Embry-Riddle, graduate students take 2 classes. We are a STEM-focused school, so we of course offer degrees in science, technology, engineering, math, and a lot of aviation and aerospace related degrees. 2 classes is considered full-time, and that will of course keep people very busy. Typical hours that students put into their graduate work is anywhere from 30 to 40. If you have an assistantship, that will add another 20 hours to your workload. This will be busy, and it's important to be realistic about it and know that let your family know as well, right? They need to know what to expect from you and that you will be gone a lot. Managing your time is also very important. So getting a calendar, a task list, there are all kinds of project management tools that help you manage your time and keep on task. Breaking tasks into smaller bits and pieces will help you gain and keep some sort of sense of control, which is important. And this, of course, all these tips, managing a project, applies to getting a job as well. Next. And one of the things that are crucial and make the workload and experience as a graduate student manageable and help you in your job search process after graduation is building relationships. So it is, of course, a given that we will have relationships with our peers. Many graduate studies happen as a cohort, so you will be very closely connected with the cohort you work with. Your professors, mentors, industry connections that you get from visiting conferences, and possible career fairs that happen in your school are, of course, very important. It is not to be discounted, the community relationships on and off campus. You never know. Maybe you are renting a house or an apartment near someone who is an alumni of your school, or perhaps is an aerospace engineer, and ta-da, here you are getting a degree in aerospace engineering. They can possibly connect you with the hiring department or other interesting people in their company. So it is always good to have an eye open for community connections as well. Next. And getting to work. So how do we do this? So for example, when you are first starting as a graduate student, most universities have graduate student associations connected to your major. Join that. That will provide you a network within the school, and you are going to probably have these relationships for a very long time. Become an officer. It is sometimes difficult for international students to get work because there are so many restrictions. So having a position in a graduate student organization as a president, as a treasurer, for example, can give you work experience that you can then talk about, or practical experience, I guess I want to say. You can get a job on campus. You can get an assistantship. There are teaching assistantship, research assistantship, and other kinds of assistantships. For example, here at Embry-Riddle, we have students who do type of office work as a graduate assistant, and that will really help students know how departments work. One of the other ways to get a job is to just simply get an on-campus job. You can get an on-campus job in a department where you learn again how the university works and the department works. Off-campus employment is available in two ways. Curricular practical training, which is, of course, internships and short-term employment while you are studying and it is connected to your program. And then optional practical training, or OPT, after graduation, sometimes pre-graduation, but mostly after graduation. So all of these ways can help you get ready for your after post-graduation job. It is really important to get practical experience throughout your academic program. Next. So here's a graph on how to get a job as an international student, and you can see the little squiggly line with all those stops. So it is a project, like many other projects, and it's important to manage it as such. So learning the visa rules, building a list and researching the companies where you want to work, which sponsor students, researching different roles. Because, for example, here I work with students who are interested in aviation, and quite a few students think, well, aerospace engineers designs aircrafts, or pilots, if you get a degree in aeronautical science, you only fly. But there are so many jobs at airports, spaceports, in private industry companies. It's important to know what roles are available for you. Your school's career fairs or career services are really helpful, and know the industry your school works with. Start thinking about your professional story. What is it that you want to do in the future? How do you get your experience? All of those things that I talked about, being part of an graduate student organization, getting internships, helping professors with research, are all very important for your future employment. Hanging out with Americans, right? It's not all work, there's time to play, really serves a dual purpose. It will strengthen your social connections, but also provide a window to how Americans think and how you might want to interact with them when you are doing a job search and interviewing. Alumni is a valuable tool. And here, especially at Embry-Riddle, we value alumni connections, and a lot of students, current students, are connecting with alumni who are then connecting them to future employment opportunities. And the finding a job and interview process is, of course, something that your school career services can help. They will help you with your resume and CV writing and practice interviews. Next. And here's my final content slide, because once you graduate and you are looking for a job, or getting close to graduating and looking for a job, you will start filling out applications. And here are some of the questions that employers ask students. What does the company need to do to hire you? So if I am a hiring supervisor, what do I need to do exactly? If you are a student looking for a position for CPT, well, nothing. Provide an offer letter. The school will handle all the processing. There's no need for the employer to do anything extra that they would do for a domestic applicant. In OPT, it's the same. The school is not out of money. They do not need to do anything at all. The student, the potential employee, will provide the company with an employment authorization document, or the EAD card, as we mostly call it. The potential employer might say, when can you work, if you don't know about OPT approval? And I wrote OPT approval there, but the question also might apply to CPT. They might ask, well, when are you available to work? So as I mentioned already, CPT is typically semester by semester for internships or short-term work during breaks. And the work is limited to 20 hours a week when classes are in session. For the OPT approval, the approval time is typically 90 days, but it can vary, go up to 5 months perhaps. So as a student seeking employment on OPT, it is important to keep that timeline in mind when responding to the employer requests. And let the employer know that you cannot actually provide an exact date. You must get your EAD card. You anticipate it will come at this time, but when exactly, you don't know. Will you require sponsorship? That tends to be a question, and in fact, it is a question in most job applications. So even though students on OPT are legally eligible to work in the United States. The spirit of that question typically means, will you require sponsorship eventually? So if a student answers no in the questionnaire, the employer might consider that you are lying, which is not a great way to start this venture together. So the best way is to explain that you have a legal right to work in the US for whatever number of months you have available for your OPT. It is at least 1 year or 12 months. And it is also then the recommendation from experience to avoid using the word sponsor. Students can explain then the work authorization can be renewed if the employer fills out a petition. So sponsor tends to have a negative connotation. And then again, a common question is, how long can you work for us without us having to sponsor you? So there is no need for sponsorship or petition for employment eligibility during OPT or STEM OPT. And so the employer can just hire the student. Again, there's no extra word or work or money they need to put out. And the length of the OPT then requires on the degree. And there is a list, of course, that is out from the Homeland Security for STEM eligible degrees. So you will know, you can know from that list whether you are eligible for the 12-month OPT or also the STEM extension. And that concludes my content. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Hannaliisa, for the great presentation. I really hope it's going to be super useful to our audience. We do have questions, and I'll start to give you them. So two of them, which I consider very relevant to the presentation that you've already made, and I think those are also important to know by our students, is, in your experience, do employers place more value on a postgraduate degree or the practical work experience? Is that a combination of both, or what is it considered when they are reviewing their resume or their CV?
Well, I think both are important. So it's important to have, like for me personally, I have been hiring people for a long time. And I know there is talk where people say, oh, the grades don't matter in a graduate degree. You just need to have your degrees from somewhere. Actually, grades do matter. And we do look at transcripts and we do look at GPA, because what that tells me, not just that, oh, you're good in school, but you are resilient. You are focused on a project and you do it well. Then again, we want to balance that with some of these real life experiences. And I understand that as an international student, those are difficult to get. Therefore, I cannot stress enough the importance of joining these organizations and clubs, and not just being a participant, but really striving for an officer position to get that experience if there is no opportunity to get other employment opportunities.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And how important is it for postgraduate students to gain relevant work experience during their studies? Because you've mentioned the different ways they can get that on campus or off campus. How do you think, how important is that for them?
Again, I would say that it's quite important. It depends on the field, possibly, though, too. So I am talking very much, I'm a linguist. So, and I work with applied linguists. It is important. I think a lot of the STEM degrees, engineering, I work with a lot of engineers. It is also extremely important because you want to put your theoretical knowledge that you learn into action. And if you think that, I don't know if I have the bandwidth for that, you may want to investigate that when choosing a school. For example, I know here in Embry-Riddle, where I am, there are student organizations and professors who have labs where students put all of their knowledge into work. So when you are interviewing or filling out an application, filling out your resume, there are ways to display that knowledge, even if it's not from a formal employer. You can be specific on all the projects that you did and how they might mimic real world applications that happen in a company.
Perfect. Thank you very much for your response. So we have two more questions, which I would like to address. What are some of the biggest challenges that a postgraduate student might face when he would enter the job market today? I know that it would definitely depend on the segment, on the type of the job that he would have, but maybe there are some general ones that you can highlight.
Biggest challenges, I think one is this talking to employers about hireability and eligibility to work. And I think this is where especially the network comes in, because when you have built a network and you have personal connections in the company, they have a face, they know you, they know that it is worth hiring you for the time of the OPT, which then kind of serves as a test period, so to speak. Are they going to sponsor you or not? So getting your foot in the door and getting that connection so that you can show how fabulous you really are, I think can be a challenge. But
Great.
Challenges are to be overcome.
For sure. And do you think the job market is more competitive now than it was 5 or 10 years ago?
I do. Overall, it seems, I think what has happened after the pandemic, their worldviews have shifted, and all of these things that I talked about life and really taking a look at your lifestyle choices have also added to the competitiveness, because people want certain things. They want company who understands that we have a life. And so there are more people competing for those jobs. World has become smaller, and it is possible to work remotely, except if you are an OPT and STEM OPT. But again, that adds people to the pool that they are hiring from.
Okay. And are there any particular strategies that can help those candidates to stand out when they would just go to a job interview? And maybe you can just mention some of them.
Well, one of the things is to, of course, customize your resume or your CV to the position you are seeking. I cannot stress this point enough, that if the employer asks for a letter, give them a letter. The letter should highlight your strengths, and the letter should not be written by generative AI, ChatGPT, or whatever, because people who read applications for a living, they can spot that, they see it. And it is good to use external help and resources like generative AI, but in such a way that the potential future employer doesn't see that's how you used it. So be savvy about the resources. There are possibly other ways that students can apply for jobs. So some job companies offer an opportunity for you to give a video and talk about your accomplishments. You can upload your research, your presentation. So it is not always the traditional letter and a resume kind of application. So if there is an alternative opportunity to make a video, for example, that might be a great way to stand out from the rest of the applicants.
Okay, perfect. And you've mentioned that during the presentation, and I think that would be my last question. So you've mentioned that there is a counseling office that might assist the students in the university, and especially international students, to jump into their job So how they can assist and how it happens at Embry-Riddle, for example. And if you can just share an example of how this process looks like and to whom they might address in case if they finished, for example, their master's degree or their PhD, what are the steps that they should follow normally?
So career services, a lot of times they reach out to new incoming students and to let them know, the students know that they exist. They hold workshops, regular workshops on different parts of the job hunt and how to build a resume and how to dress, how to interview, and so on. They do individualized work. Here at Embry-Riddle, students can make an appointment. They can take their resumes and have it looked over and worked over. There is a wardrobe library where students can borrow a suit if they don't have one. A lot of schools have that available. So they teach you how to dress. Career Services also arranges career fairs. So here at Embry-Riddle, we just had our career fair last Friday, where employers, industry employers, come to campus and they meet with students. They set up little interview times, and you see all these students walking into the career fair with their suits on, getting ready. They have been prepped for interviews. My former administrative assistant was a graduate student at Embry-Riddle, and she was getting her master's degree in business administration. After a career fair, she received a job offer from Boeing and Lockheed Martin. So career fairs, career services are truly an amazing way to get your foot in the door and make yourself known.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I think it was super detailed, and I'm really thankful that you answered it. And I think that's a really great practical tip that the students might use. And I think that's applicable for all the institutions, especially the career fairs. Okay, so I think we've done with all the questions, and thank you once again for the interesting presentation you've done for us today. I'm really excited to know if some students will use the opportunity to review this presentation afterwards, in case if they didn't have the chance to do that today. And sorry for the technical issue that we've had today. Thank you so much for being with us, and thank you so much for addressing your questions before the start of this webinar. We really appreciate that. Subscribe to our events for the next week, because we have the International Education Week, and I'm more than sure that undergraduate students might use this opportunity to prepare for their application. Hannaliisa, thank you so much once again for participating in our webinar. I really hope we'll do some more of them in the future. Good luck to you, to those who are in the preparation process. And thank you again, Hannaliisa.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everyone.